So they went on to do this. So I don't know if that has. Oh, is that? No. Mary is out of town.
She's supposed to tell me all.
Oh, oh, well.
I can't remember the option. I'm sure that.
I think Judith is the alternate. But,
Yeah.
and you're not in the schoolhouse either.
Huh?
So I can see just the one person. I can just see you. I can't see the room.
Did you want to know something?
I don't know how to log into that one. Yeah.
So this is all historic schoolhouse. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here's our agenda packet, and let's just make sure I can log in through here.
So we can see the one person.
Same
Are,
one.
You were still in it.
are
Yeah.
we able to see the room? Is the owl going to be on?
It is called Zoom meeting.
How you guys doing? Connected to the wrong meeting. This is on.
Yeah. Hi, Rita.
Hi, I can only see the two of you.
You're muted.
Okay,
My speaker is muted.
yes.
How do I unmute my? Oh.
Okay, can you hear me?
Now I can
Okay.
hear you.
And so I can only see the two of you.
Right. We're trying to figure out how to.
How to turn the owl on? The other cameras?
Yeah.
No,
Are you on that panel? There's that panel that's up there.
So I'm not sure what panel. There's a little white thing.
That's it. That's
Okay.
it.
But we can't figure out exactly. Okay.
This is not the same.
It's yeah.
Yeah, but that there's a little panel, white panel, and that's like the remote for the system.
Yeah, leave that meeting and let's try it again.
Okay, so conservation.
Yeah.
Here's the meeting. Meeting ID 850-1163. Did you guys already do the first one?
Yes, that's how I did this
Can
one.
you pull up the agenda packet? It was on the Chrome.
Yes. No, it's the same number.
Just check. Let's go from that one to make sure it's the same.
Yeah.
850. Okay, 1163. Is that right?
Yep.
2789
Yep. And the passcode is
925570. Recording in progress.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Okay.
why.
So now you have to turn your sound off.
Got it. Woo! Oh. This is that. Do we want to turn the volume up? Where's that? Oh, we're here. We just need to figure out the sound. So let.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we have sound from? All I did was mute myself on there. Yeah.
So then we need to, yeah, but we need these up and
Yeah,
we need to make sure we speak into the mics at all times. And because
correct.
if you've watched the council meetings or anything, you can only hear about half of what's said because people aren't careful about that.
Okay, well, we have a quorum and we have technology. So let's call the meeting to order. And start with roll, yes. Got it.
The only ones we're missing.
We're only missing Dieter and Mary Ann.
Dieter and Mary Ann, correct.
Call to order 7:12 PM.
Okay, we'll begin the meeting then with oral communications for things that are not on the agenda. Okay,
I would just like to say, on behalf of this committee, but also for myself, a thank you to Town Manager Jeremy Dennis for the partnership that he had with this committee. And for me personally, especially with the rodenticide ordinance and with the Frog Pond Road remnant. I learned a lot from him, and I don't think we would have been successful on either one of those without Jeremy. So
yes,
just for the record.
thank you. That's great. Okay, I know Christy has something that she would like to bring up. So Christy
Sorry, Christy Corley.
Corley. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So Christy, I think you're muted. There you go.
Oh, thank you for calling on me. Are we going to talk about Dorothy Ford Park later in the meeting? Because I believe we get to talk about after each agenda item, and I want to make sure I'm in line here.
We're going to be just talking briefly about the status of Dorothy Ford Field's maintenance is what we're going to talk about. So if you have something that's different than our usual keeping on top of the town-owned lands from a maintenance point of view, then I think it's probably best to bring it up here.
Okay. I did send on the 16th of February a letter to Chair McGill in hopes that it would get on your agenda so you could be looking at it as I brought this up. Unfortunately, it was not attached to the agenda. This is regarding parcel tax R in 2009. And I asked that if that did not happen, if I could then put it on the screen. And I was told I could not. So I am going to send this to all of you since it didn't happen like I thought it would. And this is the parcel tax that raised money for our open space. And I found it interesting to read. I think it was approximately 800, maybe $850,000 to fix up Ford Field and do some other things to it. It looked like there was county money involved as well as town funds involved. So that is of interest, I think, to this committee. It is financial, but it also is the history of purchases and how we fixed up the field and how we also are maintaining the parcel next to the field. So I will be sending that to you, and if I find it during your next agenda item, I will want to be more detailed. I just walked in from getting out of the car, and I want to have it in front of me to present to you as well. I will go over the details at that time when Dorothy Ford Park is talked about later. Thank you.
So I know we can't have a discussion about this, but I want to ask you just a quick question, Christy. What are you just giving us this as a point of information, as something we should know something about? Or are you asking us to do something?
I do think that this committee should, I've sent it to Recreation, Open Space, and your committee. And I've asked that the parcel tax be attached to all the agendas. And this one, it was not.
In order for us to
Discuss it.
You want us to ask that they raise the parcel tax? You want us to ask that they give it only to conservation? What do you want?
Well, Measure R was a 2009 parcel tax that all of us paid into as part of our taxes. So I wanted this committee to look at that and see how that money was spent and see how the two parcels were conserved with these monies, because this was to upgrade the two parcels, such as the I think it said the baseball pitching machine area and so on, maybe even the field. But
Oh, it's for our information.
well, actually, it has to do with our money as residents that was spent on these two parcels and how it will be rolled forward to no longer be available to us possibly in the future. So I think this is of interest to conservation because we try to conserve land and conserve green spaces. So I will be getting this to you. And maybe I can get it to you during the meeting. How's that?
We can't talk about it tonight regardless.
Well, on the 16th, I had asked that it be an agendized.
Right.
And that we could have it to look at, to talk about, but that was not, I was not given
Christy,
that.
we can't talk about everything that's of interest in general. We try to talk about things that are pertinent to our charge, the things that the committee has been asked to do and is doing. So there's lots of interesting stuff in town that has to do with lots of things, but we have no official role in those things. So if you would like to send it to us for information and so that as citizens interested in all that, we know about it, that's great, but it doesn't sound like something that should go on our agenda to me. I'm not the chair anymore, but speaking as
but
a
I did-
member.
I mean, we're well over the 3 minutes, but I'll remind you that when I spoke with you 2 days ago, I asked you to just bring a concise, just bring a concise verbal statement of what it is that you're asking us to do. Because it's unclear to me and I can't put anything on an agenda that I can't explain. So at least at some level, or at least I don't understand. So I think we just need a concise statement of what it is that you want us to do. Okay. Any other, I think I see that Rita has her hand up as well.
Yes, well, thank you for all showing up at the schoolhouse, and it is appreciated. And perhaps you did roll call before the video was working. And it's so much harder to recognize everybody's names without everybody in their little Zoom boxes with their names on it. So if you could do either roll call again or and it's too bad you guys don't have your nice little nameplates. The town needs to get that for you, but if everyone could just say their name, for the recording, and that would just be great. Thank you.
I think we can say our names again, just quickly. Catherine McGill.
Megan Richards.
Yogi Zimmerman.
Nona Chariello.
Judith Murphy.
Paul Weifel.
Teresa Coleman.
Okay. Great. I think we can move on now to the approval of the minutes from last month's meeting minutes. Can we have a,
It wasn't clear to me whether that wonderful chart about who was assigned to what, is that part of the minutes or is it an appendix to
that was an
tonight?
appendix. It didn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So it's an appendix to that. All right,
Which I just
thanks.
promptly lost.
So the only, this is really a comment rather than a correction, and that is that under old business C, it says that those properties were discussed, and it would be nice in the minutes if there could be just a sentence or two about what was discussed. Partly because I know the minimal requirement for minutes doesn't say it has to be there. But for example, if someone's interested in, if there's a resident interested in following Frog Pond and they go back, they get interested and they go back and they want to look and see what we've done about it as the months go by. What we've done and what we haven't done and what we decided not to do. And all it says is Frog Pond, then they have no way of knowing. And I don't think I don't know what the current thing is about recordings. Do our recordings get kept? I know they do for the commissions and the council, but I don't think ours do. Anyway,
and-
it's just a request that it say a sentence or two about the biologist report has been completed and presented and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think
Rather
it-
than, I mean, it's almost pointless to have it on here, but it doesn't say anything about it.
Okay.
Minimal. I mean, I don't want to make it harder. 'cause
Yeah,
I
no,
know
it
you
just-
struggle to do these and it gets complicated, but otherwise there's no historical record. That's all.
Okay. So, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay.
Sorry,
Uh,
Pete. I move.
Aye. And Dieter was on the phone and Marianne is, I mean, they're both, yeah, they were both there, but. Okay, good. Okay,
So just as an aside to that, maybe if those of us who give little reports like that could give something to Teresa.
I think that would be
She doesn't
super
have to,
helpful.
take,
no,
take all that.
I have
Yeah.
written down, but
Oh, okay.
I was trying to do was comply with what we have been asked to do. So
yeah, there's,
I'll try to make a happy medium.
I
Frog
appreciate
Pond
it.
had no update last time. It
Okay.
was on hold, given the weather and
Yeah.
other situations.
Okay. No,
And I can certainly put that in.
no, I don't want you to add anything. It was
Yeah.
just a general statement, not
That's
a,
okay. Going forward,
yeah.
I
thank
will
you.
duly noted.
perfect. Okay, so I just wanted to move on to old business, the land acknowledgement discussion. I just wanted to open it up for anybody who has any further comments on it. I feel like I know where it came from. I know what the point was, and I know how it was not rolled out well. But it's not something that needs to be read at every meeting. It's just something that will be on the template for the agenda, as you know, as essentially a part of the letterhead. So, and any other questions about that?
What's the committee's intention about, would we like to read it once a year, quarterly, never, every month?
I'd prefer never.
Yeah,
Actually
I don't know.
The background to it, so if there's some background that we all should know, I don't actually know it. I don't know how it ended up.
Okay, yes, so it came out of the DE.
Race and,
Race and equity.
Race and Equity spent about 6 months drafting it and had input from various people about it. They took it to the council. They asked the council to approve it and to read it every council meeting. The council approved the statement. They declined to read it at their meetings. They decided that they would make a plaque that had it and put it up in the schoolhouse somewhere. Hasn't happened yet. And that it would be added to the letterhead for the internal communications of the town. And so they made that decision and then they implemented that decision. And it hadn't been, wasn't really noticed to the other committees and things. And suddenly it appeared on the agendas and people got quite, various people got disturbed because they were worried about what it meant and what it implied. And they thought it was on the agenda as part of their agenda. And they were pissed off because they didn't want things put on their agendas without permission, which I totally understand. So there was a rush of a lot of stuff about it that I think is mostly settled down, but that's what I know about the history. And there are specific complaints and I think Teresa, you raised one of the specific complaints was that the fear that it somehow made us legally more vulnerable to have it there, us as a committee. And,
As a committee, as a town member, all across the board, yes.
okay. But
I knew the beginning part of that history, I just didn't know how it got on all the agendas.
But there was yeah.
that was what
oh,
the council decided.
I think ours was the first agenda that it came, or maybe the second agenda it came out on. And when it first came out, it almost looked like an agenda item because it was just appended in the same text and it wasn't called out as a separate item and with like a border around it or something that would, so that was some feedback that was given back to the town to make it be more that, more as a stand
Delineated.
to delineate it from the business of the committee. That's it. Yep. Okay. We have one more hand. Rita, are you still?
Hi there. I just want to make a comment about that the statement. I am not aware if the Muwekma, the Ohlone, the Amur-Mutsun, or any of the tribes that occupied and owned this land, this local land, were asked about it. And if they were, one person that might comment on it cannot speak for the whole tribe. I personally feel uncomfortable with the statement because of that. And as an African-American, I wouldn't want the town to come up with a statement that represents their feeling on African-Americans without having African-Americans be part of the discussion. So for this particular, I'm not sure what the future of this particular statement is going to be for Portola Valley, but I will do what I can to continue my thoughts with the council and other people in town. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the council is the appropriate venue for this. We don't, it's not it's not related to committee business at all.
No,
So-
but I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. All right. Review of the subcommittees and priorities. I made a little Excel spreadsheet. I don't want to read through it. I hope everybody had a chance to look through it. And if there's anything that's wrong or incomplete, please let me know. I think we'll get to the individual properties shortly. But please let me know if there's anything on this is wrong or incomplete.
Now or later?
Now, if it comes to mind.
Okay, well, I'm listed as a subcommittee for ad hoc fire safety
Yeah,
as well as wildfire preparedness. And I think it really should just be wildfire preparedness because the ad hoc committee is a temporary committee.
good. That's exactly what I wanted.
It's gone now, isn't it?
It's
Didn't it get
gone,
rolled
yeah.
into? Yeah.
It can't continue for more
Yeah.
than like 2 years or something, isn't it?
Excellent. Good. Get one of those committees off.
Yeah.
list.
Really.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to oversight of town-owned properties. And we wanted to start with the Frog Pond, which there actually is a little bit going on there.
That's right. So we got the draft report from MIG that was circulated. And I don't know if you had a chance to read it, or I don't know if it went to the full group yet at this point.
I think we haven't passed, I mean, the subcommittee, as far as I know, hasn't just
Yep.
met and
So-
discussed it.
So what we will then do is for next time, we'll circulate officially the draft report. And the key aspect, and then we should discuss it at that point and collect input. The key aspect in talking to Howard is that we still believe that we need the town needs to apply to SEQA for the exemption that the Frog Pond does not fall under their jurisdiction, which would then allow us to manage the Frog Pond as we see fit based on the MIG report. And the key point, I think, is there that it's less than, I think, half an acre. There are certain minimum requirements when you can apply for an exemption. And we believe, and MIG believes, that the place fits that bill. So we're waiting now for Howard, I think, to talk to the lawyer and do the proper paperwork.
Right. And yeah, I talked to him briefly about that, and that's right. I actually looked it up because I was really confused. And there is a SEQA waiver
Yep.
that we have to file for. But the thing that confused, so you have to have somebody certify, but it doesn't say who can certify that it's okay.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit unclear, is how the certification gets
Yep.
done
See,
to approve the waiver.
Yeah, so the not having the waiver or the certified waiver does not preclude us from doing some of the work that we did, mowing, etc. It comes to whether how much we can actually take out some of the trees and do some other changes to the current layout. And also independent of that, the key item for the committee is to get in touch with the school and see their landscape plans now for the border, what type of fencing they envision, etc., so that we can have an active discussion with them. That's the highest thing on my priority list. And then we have to do the budget aspect with Howard and see how much the town can or wants to spend on the mowing, etc.
Well, I think there's a lot of room for volunteer, town volunteer work. And I mean, I think that's something that you need to make sure that Howard is really clear on is what we expect will be their responsibility going forward, and that, being extremely clear about what we can do and what we need them to do.
So I
Which is
think
mostly.
Well, and the pattern has been that we've when the subcommittees met, we've done that report, we've made a specific list of things we'd like him to do. And then he goes through and figures out how much they'll cost. And then he decides which ones he'll put in the budget or not. So everything we recommend doesn't get done. And then the things that are left, some of them are too big for us to do.
Right.
Like taking out big trees. And so we just wait and try again the next year. And some of the things that are left over, then we have to try to organize volunteers. But we're at the point of the year where we should be doing that for, let's see, Mary Ann, when you came on, we all started.
Marianne, I think you need to mute your Zoom.
We all of these parcels, we need to get together and put our, make our list of budget requests and get them into Howard now, because he has to do a bunch of stuff with it before it can get put into his budget, et cetera. So we can't wait till they're looking at the budget to do it, because then we're months too
We
late.
can't spring it.
Yeah.
And then one last thing on the frog pond is Mary Hafty sent out, like, I think it's a weekly update. And a good item, but I was surprised to see the frog pond in there as number one, actually, on the water retaining issue. So I don't know if we need to proactively engage in that. Will it become a town topic? Or is it just based on the current rain, people have a lot of ideas about water retention? Because we had the initial feedback from MIG is that actually any change to the water depths is detrimental to the frog pond because the sediments will come in. So do we need to respond to her weekly address officially at one point, or how does that normally work?
If I were you, I would just try to spend a little time with her personally, and then in an ongoing way about Frog Pond, so you can be updating her and asking her, and just ask her, to run anything that's about Frog Pond by you first, so that you coordinate. Yeah, she's very open to that sort of thing.
I have one question about your presentation, just a point of clarification. Is the idea that we would be required to have a secret exemption because it's otherwise a jurisdictional wetland if it exceeds a certain area? Or are you talking about Frog Pond open space as a whole?
The frog pond open space, that's how MIG worded it. And the main reason why we believe we should go that way is because we had a resident complain or stop some of the action in the frog pond area was taking out the trees
I
last
see.
year.
Okay.
And there was a potential lawsuit pending or a complaint to the state government on that. And that's when it came up, and MIT brought it up that it's better to have the waiver, because then we can implement their plan or our own plan without having to be too concerned that we can be sued.
So it's unrelated to the actual area of open water.
It's the whole.
Correct.
7
Oh,
acres.
Okay, just clarify.
So as a point of clarification, then where we are is that someone needs to apply for this. How the town needs to apply for it. Howard needs to apply for it, and it hasn't yet been applied for. It's not that it's been applied for and we haven't heard back. It's that nothing yet has been done. So
Correct.
that's the logjam. So then the question is, how do we do the logjam? Is it money? Is it time? Is
I
it?
think Howard has to get with, and my understanding is it's getting it with the town lawyers and then finding the appropriate form to submit.
Well, you can find the form online. It's a one-page form. It just looks like it's a,
They
20-minute
will send
thing.
it to Howard.
yeah.
I think there's some unclarity about who can sign off on it.
Yeah.
So, and I think he said he feels more comfortable if he runs it by the lawyer, so he gets more clarification, because I think he's worried that it's gonna happen, when you file these kinds of waivers, that opens you up to the state coming and looking, and.
Right, and
you
that's
know, I
what,
mean,
that's
it's-
what happened with the pond at Springdown, it
Right.
was like 8 years before we could get that all done, because they decided that, they did have something to say about it. But if we can't do anything till we've done it, if we don't do it, we can never do anything. So,
know.
No, we are not precluded from doing our normal maintenance work. So like the mowing we do, if we want to plant things,
mhm.
take harding was out, so that's not, we can do that at any given time. So it's only like the tree, taking out the trees that open up the bigger question, do you now change the
Well,
environment?
Well, that was the thing that
And, I
was
mean, but-
questioned. In fact,
so-
that affects the frog pond, that affects the biologically sensitive part of this.
And it's the
Not at all.
the harding grass that's gonna be the big job.
Yep.
And, yeah, so, and that is in the water, so,
But as said, we'll get with what my understanding is, it doesn't stop us from doing our normal maintenance.
Okay.
work.
Good.
And it's only that it covers us for any future larger activity.
okay. Good. Judy, spring down?
So spring down, the first 2 days of mowing were to be yesterday and today, and they got rained out. So because we have this very inflexible schedule with spring down, with Go Native, it means it's not for another 3 weeks that the mowing will get done. And hopefully the rains won't be those particular days. Those are the biggest things. There are a lot of little poppies coming up. It's very hard to find the tidy tips we planted. Even though when I planted them, I put them in the gopher dirt where there was nothing around them.
Yeah.
The little culvert is partly blocked. I walked by today and it's blocked. And so there's a big puddle back by the willow, but there's nothing going over the path. So I was going to mention it to Howard in the communication with him. About
Judy,
yes, can you hear me?
you might want to look after today again, the blockage, because that's why I am late. The runoff from the hill is almost as much as it was in January. So if there is silt, then it will be worse. Somebody should, I can look maybe tomorrow. I'm obviously not in Tahoe, because just seeing how much silt is coming down again, the hillsides, this was already so blocked. We should look at this urgently. I can go there tomorrow.
Okay, because I saw that a big pond had formed when I looked today and looked like that was bad necessarily, because the willow is there. And if it's a little more wet right in there, it doesn't really matter. It shouldn't go over the trail, obviously, 'cause it'll wash the trail out, but it was nowhere close to doing that, even in the heavy downpour when I was there, getting wet looking. That's all.
Okay, good. Town center, is there anything going on?
No update. I think as Judy mentioned, our next step is to set up another site visit and discuss budgeting items for the next year. There have not been a lot of, there hasn't been a lot of action happening at the town center. They just picked up some of the work from 2021, I think, in the fall. So we can make a new list. We held off on making a new list, and now that some of it's getting done, I think we can start looking at those
Good.
things.
They did take the grapes out where the pickleball nets are the temporary pickleball net storage location, and they put asphalt on that. And yeah,
They took them all the way out. They didn't just coppice them way down.
no, and they didn't coppice the ones on the other side. And I asked them just to cut them all the way down to the ground because they've got big old branches going into the fence and stuff. So I'll remind them to do that.
You can add it to our list.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Triangle Park, anything going on?
No, nothing.
Okay. And as far as the Rosati Field and Dorothy Ford Open Space, I just wanted to bring up as far as Dorothy Ford Open Space. I walked over there the other day with Aunt Karen Askey and talked about a potential dog park location. in that wedge of, is it the most northern wedge of that open space where it goes down to, you know, it's close to the trees. And I think we'll make a formal proposal of that at some point, but that is a kind of one of the two top ideas for a dog park. So that'll come up again at some point later.
Catherine, is
Yes.
that the location close to the creek?
So it could be close to the creek. We'd have to talk a lot about exactly what the size was. And I think, you know, there would be some enthusiasm for access to the creek for dogs. I'm not sure how great of an idea that is.
It's impossible. I mean, that, you know, I am missing something here. Why is it being considered the dog park in open space parcels? Why did that come back up? Can somebody maybe shed some light on that?
So a number of people would like to have a dog park in town. And it keeps getting revisited because there isn't a dog park in town. And there are people that are using some of the school fields. And there are a lot of people that use the town center for off-leash play, even though it's not really legal. And so there's been a push to just open up the discussion again and see whether or not we can't find something where we can put a dog park.
Is that we can find something or that the committee approves it? Because I think the committee was mentioned in one of the circulations as one of the blockers of the dog park.
Well, so there are certain locations that we would prefer not to have a dog park. I think that there's not a blanket. I think certain members of this committee would like to see a dog park.
I think our official position has been that we understand the need for and are sympathetic to the need for a dog park, and that there are a number of locations that they have proposed that we are violently opposed to.
Right.
Because you see, the one thing that's going through my mind is, for example, down Ford Field. It is such a location near the freeway, near Menlo Park. Guess who is going to come to that dog park? This then is not going to be a dog park for Portola Valley.
You just cut out.
We can't hear you, Marianne.
Yeah, no, I understand. And
So, sorry, sorry about that.
The first part of it, but not the last.
So where did it stop?
Near the freeway, it's not going to be us. It's
Okay, so it's what my concern is, if it's that close to the freeway and to Menlo Park and what have you, Redwood City, people will come here because it will be wonderful for their dogs. Are we considering a dog park for the whole greater area? And particularly with a creek nearby, is this prudent?
yeah, I think those are good questions.
I think you should go talk at the Parks and Rec meeting,
Yeah, we have a
Marianne.
little
I think
subcommittee. You might wanna
the more
participate.
people, I don't know about the subcommittee, but at the meeting itself, you should make these points because it's important that they hear stuff like that.
No, I think that's definitely a valid concern. There's a ton of issues.
So did we skip on the agenda? Are we now on D7?
Oh,
We're
no.
talking about the dog park just as it relates to Dorothy Ford Field because I walked around. So I'm sorry for getting you off.
I understand. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Right.
keep it. Yeah. Anyway, so sometimes these things meld. Sorry.
But to speak to Marianne's last point, I think there's a larger issue, and that is that we know we provide open space, within the town, all that open space, far more people from, the populated areas of the county and the adjacent county use those areas, then it's just us and the kids park, the kids playground here at town. I think there are lots of people from out of town. The nannies come and meet there and use that. And part of the way that Portola Valley has positioned itself to be, for other folks to be respectful of our open space and zone, not having density zoning, has been that we provide the open space and the recreation opportunities. The fields are
Right.
used by everybody else, et cetera. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a tough argument to make.
No, I understand. I fully understand that. But my main points would be two. Number one, a dog park means a fence. And then we have the old issue that we are going to have fencing on open space. So that's one. And number two, a dog park means, I read it in one, that people will clean up after themselves. I think that is absolutely not, that is not something that can be expected. So then there has to be money in the town of Portola Valley for cleaning it up. And somebody has to calculate how much that costs, and the money has to be made available.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that has been part of the discussion, that those kinds of things are necessary if the town's gonna sponsor this. It has to have garbage pickup, and it has to have a fence.
It's more than garbage. It's going around and picking up the dog shit.
That too.
The poop fairy doesn't come.
It's picking up the dog shit, and then sooner or later you have to come with a hose and getting rid of the dog pee. I mean, I have a dog, I love dogs, but they they poop and they pee. And the fence, I still do not understand how we will, from a conservation perspective, have a fence on open space, but there are no fences allowed on open space. I don't know how we're going to be, sort of schizophrenic.
So I
Part
don't
of the discussion.
think we should have a full discussion about this now until it's brought to us as a proposal.
Right.
But I think it's really important that if you're going as a member of the subcommittee, that you be raising the various objections so
Yes.
that it doesn't look like the subcommittee is proposing this and conservation has been part of the, deciding this would be a good thing.
Right.
Yeah. So, and
Right.
it's a delicate
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, that's my concern. At the moment, it looks like the Conservation Committee is supporting this, and that is not necessarily true. Maybe there are people on
We
the
don't need to
Conservation.
have all of- we
Yeah,
don't need to have the detailed conversations now about the pros and the
Yeah,
cons.
okay.
Right, we're just having the discussion.
I have one question that's not dog
Yeah.
park related, and that's what are the ribbons of Valley Oaks?
I don't know what those
I think
ribbons
they were
are.
put there by people unknown to draw attention to the oaks to increase the outrage if they're proposed to be taken down.
Okay, that might be a good idea, but
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
otherwise, when I
There
see
were
stuff
some
like
gr-
that,
there were-
I think somebody's taking these down.
Yeah.
That's what I
That's
worry.
exactly what
don't
somebody
think
said to
that-
me. Are those coming down? I don't think so.
Yeah, red dots and things on the trees.
Yeah.
No, no, you look like you're
yeah.
about to say something.
Question, do we
Microphone.
have sorry, maybe this is a question for Paul. Paul,
Yes.
are you our representative to the Hawthorns
Yes,
Committee, and has the question of a dog park been raised for Hawthorns? Can we sort of switch it from saying, well, how do we prevent it from happening on town open space to what are the alternatives?
and that's one of the things that, Mid-Penn already has dog parks down at Pogus Ridge.
Yep.
It's really working quite well. And, they have the open space that's large enough.
So the next time the subcommittee meets, you should make sure that's on their
Definitely
table.
bring- Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
To your spreadsheet about committees, subcommittees, et cetera.
Actually, I
Oh, it
think
is there.
Paul-
Sorry, it is there.
Yeah, I am on there.
I see it. I
And
see it.
there's something coming up in March. I saw something about a meeting in March 1st, and it's now to March 15th on the Hawthorns.
I don't know.
I'll have to check on that.
Bring it up next time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go to it.
You ready to move on?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Broom pull, Sunday. Ground is wet.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about it being too dry to pull them out.
I am worried though, actually, it's supposed to rain this weekend,
Mhm.
a fair amount, and it's really been incredibly wet. It may, if it was up to me alone, I think I would postpone it for a couple weeks, but I don't know what other people feel like.
Can we do that?
Yes, we
Okay.
can. Sure.
Because it is unpleasant to pull broom in the rain.
It's gonna be cold too.
Yes.
The temperatures are staying exactly the same as they've been this whole week, and it's just gonna be wet and cold and miserable.
And so I think it would be a good idea to postpone it. In many years, we don't dare put it off till much later than this because the ground gets so dry, but there's no danger of that. Now we could put it off for a month probably, and it would be okay, but a couple of weeks, and it would give us more time to sort of organize other pieces of it.
Yep.
For example, I have yet to see the banner. Normally by now, in the week ahead of it, there's a banner out here, right?
Yes, and I.
Did
need
we
to
find
talk-
it?
I need to talk to Howard and find out,
So-
because that's,
What was the rain date that you set up
we
when you
did not
initially?
set a rain date because of the whole
Right.
setting the date and reserving the building thing, so we don't have a date. We are going to set a new date. So
Sorry, I thought I missed it.
that's good.
So let's choose it. Let's choose
Let's
another date.
choose an 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks is probably better.
Okay, that gets it past my grandchild, so.
Good. Okay,
26,
So then that is
March 26.
March 26th.
that would be right.
Who would have thought this?
And it's a Sunday? That's what
Sunday.
you're
That's what
doing?
we've done Sundays
Okay.
in the past. Yeah.
Just want to make sure I get that. Yeah.
So then those of us who've contacted various people about it need to go back through those loops and
Right.
make sure we tell them. So I've talked to the Priory and the fire department and the scouts. And I'll loop back to all of them tonight and let them know that it's been changed.
Okay. And I have been in contact with the AP environmental science teachers at both Woodside and MA. And they have, they do community service and
Right,
There's
so
this
the
one kid
sooner
who's
the better,
really
because
busy.
they may be starting to make plans or finishing making plans. And did you talk to Grassroots Ecology?
I did call them up to see if they still have the weed wrenches up
Mhm.
there on the hill. Do
Mhm.
we want to have a joint pull with them?
I think it'd be a good idea because they turn people out, yeah.
Okay. I'll ask them about that, see if they have the staff to do it.
Great.
It's that day, so I will do some polling beforehand and report back to you on how it goes.
great.
Grassroots Ecology.
Few days ahead, I have a location all picked out.
I can tell you one that's really good is this side of the fence at Hawthorne's. Grassroots Ecology has gotten them on the other side of the fence, and that was what our complaint was about all that broom just dumping seeds. That they have it on that side, and our side is
So along the Alpine
the-
Road.
right on
the-
Alpine Road. It's
along
not a
that road,
big
right.
site, and it's an easy one to get.
Yeah, yeah.
So who's collating all the sites this year? Don used to do that. Are you doing that, Catherine?
I will do that. Yeah, I have there was a Google map that Karen made that I'll try and finagle, but any other sites like that one, please let me know so that I can consolidate it. Excellent. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay. anything else? Do we know where the pennies are? That was the one thing, the pennies.
I think I have them.
Oh, okay.
I'm not
okay,
sure,
okay.
but I think I do. I know I have a bunch of gloves. And I
Great.
have a box in my garage. It says Broombowl.
Okay, and as far as the public works, the only thing that that Howard was concerned about it all this month was the frog pond and the waiver, so we've already discussed that. And I just wanted to say that several of us wrote emails to Don Bullard regarding the proposed wildfire ordinance, and they're discussing it tonight. And so I think we did our part. So, okay.
Actually, if I can
It's-
just add
yeah.
one thing to that. The version that you circulated from Don has already been revised. And so what he sent back to us was the revised version, which incorporated some things that had been missing. So the first version that we saw of that had no mention of creeks or riparian corridors as
That's correct.
exceptions.
Yeah.
And that was added in. So that's already been accounted for. I don't know about the other things that we raised.
Good. I haven't seen the revised one, but I'm sure it'll be circulated within a
Yeah.
few days.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
in that, along that specific thing, someone complained to me that the Willows project, that's being done there on Alpine, then those plans came through us, and then they went to ASCC, and they would plan the whole deal. And when, as approved by us and as approved by ASCC, there was a protection zone for all the willows along that creek.
Yep.
And evidently that area has been entirely clear cut, essentially. There's been nothing left along that creek. I haven't actually gone in and looked to see if that's true, but I've had several people say that's what happened. And when I ask about it, I didn't talk to the owners, which I'll do now that I know about it. I just found out about this. Because it seems to me they're in violation of their permit. But they had said that they were told by the fire people that they had to do that. And I wasn't sure that was true, because in general, the fire department doesn't recommend that you clear cut. They understand, and they understand the creek thing. So I'll do some following up about that.
They have a biologist that's assigned to that. Remember, we when we went there, they had the
Yep.
whole area marked off by the biologist.
So it's too late to protect it, but they can be asked to mitigate it. I mean, worst case is they stop projects when people do things like that. That's not happening, but they should be asked to mitigate.
Yeah. How does that happen?
Are we moving on to the next? Yes.
I think so.
topic?
Yep.
I was wondering if we could go to 5 before 4,
Works for me.
partly because wildfire preparedness met last week. And a lot of the meeting was devoted to a sort of question answer session with the deputy fire marshal. And then the chair, Jennifer Hammer, followed up with Don Bullard afterward, basically about the two ordinances, not only the vegetation management one, which many of us commented on, but also the enforcement one. But one of the outcomes of that conversation was that Woodside Fire marks trees that they consider need to be removed, and they tag them. And the question was, do those trees then go purely to town staff for permission to remove, or do they somehow go to this committee? And I said I didn't really know, but I assumed that since we're advisory to the town, and if the town thinks that the fire marshal wants them out, then we probably don't have much say. But it is an issue, I think, that we need to have some clarity on about when the fire department thinks something needs to come out, and what the grounds are for removing things just through that process, because they would really like to expedite that and simplify it. I don't know if the Willows were a particular example of that.
It would be the thing to bring up in the discussion with them when they're talking about it, I suppose, to see if in fact, what in fact they recommended. Because if they're recommending that kind of, well, bottom line is, if they trump us, then it's pointless for us to spend a lot of time talking about what we would prefer, if what we prefer doesn't matter.
Right.
If they're, and if they'll be conscious about the vegetation management that they've talked about that does consider creeks, and the recommendations they make are reasonable, I see no reason for it to come through us either. But if it's not one of those, then it should.
But isn't that a larger issue that we are facing as a committee on an ongoing basis anyway, that we do these reviews, we give our recommendations, it goes up, and then we get notified that, oh, we're taking out these additional trees, or we're not going to do that, or whatever, because ASCC didn't like it. There was that ordinance, or there was something else. This is an ongoing thing. And that's the reason last time I had asked about this ordinance specifically, because I didn't understand what we as conservation are expected to do in the face of this ordinance. How does it directly impact what we do when we are reviewing plans? Where are the lines drawn? And if frankly, Woodside Fire is saying that on a 1.01 acre lot, you have to have 30-foot setbacks from lot lines all the way around that are cleared and blah, blah, blah. When we review plans, are we supposed to just automatically know all of this and just go along our happy merry way and say, oh, homeowner, you have to remove all of your heritage trees, et cetera? That's the
But I don't
issue.
think it says clear. It doesn't say clear like clear cut. It doesn't say cleared like no vegetation is there.
Well,
It says cleared for fire maintenance, which means that, doing the vegetation maintenance thing where they take out
But
the,
again, Judy,
Yeah.
my thing is, as a member of conservation, I want to understand how I'm supposed to consistently with all of you interpret something so
May I
that
suggest something? I think, and I know we tried before, to answer those questions, and we all have these questions, Dawn should be invited to our next meeting and we should have a conversation. In the past, my experience was that the fire marshal is very cooperative. So I think we just need to have Dawn in the same room and ask him these questions and then hear what he's saying and where he is coming from, so that we stop the guessing.
Yeah.
I think, go ahead. I think it's important to talk to Don and to understand where he's coming from and for him to understand where we're coming from. But I see this as a question in development terms of scope. Fire is not in our scope. We're not
Yep.
specialists in any of that. So we're reviewing the plant material for conservation committee related issues. Maybe you feel like you need to add a comment if it seems really dense. Make sure you're following fire safety guidelines. But I would think that we're not trying to interpret these ordinances and capture all of that in our
Yeah,
reviews.
no, that's not our job.
No, but every fire person will tell you oaks, for example, are not a fire hazard, okay? And we're not talking about little bushes. I mean, when we're concerned, it's usually heritage oaks or oaks. And I have many times heard the fire marshal say, don't worry, to homeowners, this is an oak and an oak doesn't burn. So we need to have a dialogue to just understand. This might be a non-issue. But we're
with
guessing.
you, it's important for him to come so we can talk about
Yes,
this.
I think it's
totally
really
agree.
important for him to come.
No,
It's important to remember also that we did invite Don to come and so we could go through the ordinance with him, and he wasn't able to schedule it, and that's why we commented individually. So the fire board is meeting tonight to discuss both ordinances, the vegetation management and the enforcement. So we'll know more when that comes out. But what Don said literally is it would be great if there were a way that the process of getting a permit to remove a tree that has been marked for removal by the fire district could be expedited through the town. So that's where they're coming from. I think that, you know, it may come down to species, but willows aren't generally a big fire hazard on a creek.
Right.
So I
I
think-
still think invite him early. He's really busy. You know, give him more than maybe, I don't know how much time we gave him.
He had a specific conflict tonight.
It
He
was
had
a-
to be
yeah,
at that
it was a
other thing.
specific-
So,
Yeah. So let's just invite him for the next meeting and let's talk.
Good.
Of course, that's always good to talk.
but once again, if he's asked that specific question, they need an answer before next month. When,
That answer won't come from us.
yeah.
I mean, that's
yeah.
a town question. And I think, you know, what we have generally experienced is that if we go to a property and there's a tree that is overhanging a house and the owner says, I can't get fire insurance unless you let me take out this tree,
We say, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
right? So.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is the process right now is that the permits go into town, you know, they go to the planning office and Carol forwards them to me. And I either approve them on the spot often if the trees are obviously diseased or in bad health. Or I'll make a small subcommittee. So I'm not sure how much faster we can.
Well, I think the point is, does it have to have us as a leg of that stool at all? If the fire department has
That's a
said,
fair
this
question.
tree needs to come out,
Yeah.
you know, are we going to say, oh, no? And if we say, oh, no, is anyone going to listen to us?
No.
So I see no reason that we should be part of this myself. I think we should, in fact, formally say that we, you know, that if the fire department has, you know, earmarked a tree to come out for fire reasons, that we see no need for it to come to conservation. That's different than getting arborist report where they say they're all sick because these people fake these reports or the arborists, you know, say ridiculous things. So what I was doing, what I would warn you about is I got one where it looked horrible. And I said, of course, and then it turned out that it wasn't, none of those things were true. So I think we agreed a year and a half ago or so that if it's about oaks, we would automatically see it. And Dieter and Mary Ann were
Yeah.
were two, and then maybe one of the other of us would go out and actually look at every single oak that was, you know, coming out because it was diseased or because it was forked or something.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Catherine, have you in the last 12 months single-handedly by yourself approved some oaks to be taken out?
I can tell you, I can't tell you right this minute. I think so, but they were.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be doing that.
obviously, you know, either dead or.
I really think, you know, that we had this discussion as people are so, they have such ideas. There is really no way you on your computer can make an intelligent decision about a heritage oak, if it should go out or not. Somebody has to see it. And we agreed that we would put in the time. It's not even your time, Catherine. You know, I said, I'll go with Dieter. Because this was just, and Judy knows it, it was just such a horrific situation we had. And Judy was in good faith. I mean, they looked completely deceased. They looked completely sick. So can we keep that decision that we don't have one person who decides this in good faith? I assure you, you think you're doing the right thing, but if the tree is not seen, there is really no way of knowing.
Okay, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
And yeah, we have the trees at the Kiowa site that we need to make a trip out to go see. So we'll do that for sure. Okay, was there anything else on the wildfire
Just the Wildfire Preparedness Fair is going to be a very big event. I encourage you all to go. It's being widely publicized. And there will be talks, there will be a mock-up of a playhouse that is like a house that will be fire hardened and all kinds of really cool
We had
things.
actually
And
decided
we-
that we would have a table.
And we will have a
Yes, we're having
table
a
and there are
table,
5 of
yeah.
us who agreed to staff it. So you'll have many opportunities to visit other stations and go to some of the talks. It's a
Yeah,
lot,
a
a lot going on.
it's just we have one more meeting before, before the wildfire fair, because that's the way things go.
Yeah, but we have everything, Catherine, we have everything for the table. We have all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay,
And then
all
open
right.
space. You're gonna do
Okay, and
space.
open space. I think there's only a couple things to mention. One is, I think I mentioned last time that Betsy Morgan Taylor would become a member of Open Space, and she now is. She attended our last meeting. And Bev Lippman has said she's going to apply to Open
Oh,
Space. So
good.
we
Oh,
will have another, we will be essentially full at that point, I hope. And then the other thing, another topic that's coming up is one about signage on open space parcels. There's a general feeling that signs can be, can help people sort of connect with the heritage and value of a site if they're well done and if they're discreet and if they're, sort of really about, why is Frog Pond called Frog Pond or whatever. It's not an item that has really, it's not front burner with open space yet, but it's getting close. And so I just wanted everyone here to be kind of thinking about that because it's something we've talked about a lot too.
And I'm sorry, but there's something I forgot when I was talking about Springdown. Trails Committee, sorry, Teresa, this is terrible. Gary Hanning called me and said that Trails Committee is finishing up a new trail map. And they're going to color code the map of the trails based on what kind of trails they are. And they would like input from Conservation Committee about how we would like the trails there on the Springdown property be characterized. And the options are pedestrian only, pedestrian and equestrian, pedestrian, equestrian, and bikes. Those are the 3 kinds of trails they characterize. So we need to give them a recommendation. It's already, right now it's not marked anything that I'm aware of. It's obviously pedestrian. The equestrians historically have used it, and they'd be held to pay if we ask the equestrians to stay out. So recommendation, I mean, we can talk about it, but my recommendation would be that we suggest they characterize it as pedestrian equestrian. I don't see any need for bikes on it. Kid on his tricycle would be fine with me, but it's not appealing to mountain bikers anyway, but I think it would be better to have it on there
Yeah.
without
right.
bikes.
Yeah.
Not that the signs get obeyed anyway, because there's a no dog sign and there's a lot of dogs in there. As a matter of fact, when I went through today, and you'll see it, Marianne, if you go out and look at the culvert again, there are, people have picked up the poop and nightly tied it in a bag, and then the bags are thrown, alongside the trail. It's like, so we might ask to have, a trash container put over there. I'll add that to my Howard list. If
Do we
everybody-
have to vote on this, Judy? Do we have to make a motion and vote what we want to call these?
Yeah, I'm still rambling, but yes, we will have to before we do. I would just remember, is it okay with people if I ask Howard to put one of those little poop bag disposer things over at the
Yeah,
opening to Springdown?
my favorite sign.
Thank you.
Poop Fairy doesn't come here anymore.
Yeah.
Here.
Thanks. Okay, so I'll make the motion that we recommend to the Trails Committee that they characterize the trails on Springdown as pedestrian and equestrian. Second,
I second.
Just a minute, sorry. So Judy moved, Nona,
Second. Further discussion?
Public comment.
Any public comment?
You still have any public with us?
I have,
Christie
Public.
has her
Okay.
hand up.
yeah, I had a public comment on the willows being stripped.
sorry, not right now. Sorry, we need to finish one issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't open it for discussion for public after that item.
Well, we haven't taken our vote on this, so let's stick to this one and then you can
Yeah.
go on to that. We're easily confused.
Sadly, yes. Okay, any more
So-
discussion
so-
about?
Christy, did you have comment on this item?
No, I'm all for trash cans for dog poop.
Okay,
That's not-
all in favor?
Sorry, just to be clear, the motion is to designate
That
the trail.
Conservation recommends to the Trails Committee.
Conservation is recommending to the Trails Committee that the trail
Trail.
at Springdown be designated as an equestrian pedestrian trail.
Yes.
That's what we're voting on, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. In
All in
favor.
favor?
I,
Any opposed?
Teresa, I have to abstain because I'm not there.
I understand.
You're a member
you're
of
not
the audience.
abstaining, you're not here.
Okay. So part A, B. of
So then-
trails and paths.
So then Christy had something she wanted to say about something we went by without asking
Yes,
for public.
yes, sorry,
comment.
Christie, go ahead and, what, yeah. Ask about, your questions.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you can open that each agenda item up to the public as I noticed in some other meetings, because I feel bad bringing you back to it. I think on some of the unnamed creeks, the landowner that owns the land is supposed to abide by the California laws of Fish and Game and others. So when a creek is named that by FEMA, then the town has to enforce it. But it seems to me if this is conservation, you also have an obligation to enforce the California law for Fish and Game. And there is a stream bed alteration code, 1600 and 1602, and there is a permit seasonal swale code of 1602. And then there's a stream bed alteration of 1600. So I would encourage, we're gonna run into this a lot more on some of the parcels. So just, maybe we ask the town to ask the owners to abide by the codes of the state. I don't know how to quite say that, but when you take away a stream bed, willows, you're taking away the hiding area for animals and a way for them to travel around. So it is pretty important to not decimate the seasonal streams that occur. So I don't know how you want to discuss that more, but I think it's just something to be aware of. And anytime you're building a bridge over a stream, there's a permit from the state you have to get as well. And that's up to the landowner to get that permit.
So I guess I'm not clear what you're asking.
Well,
Well,
she raised enforcement. We have no enforcement abilities. This committee has zero enforcement ability.
Can you make a recommendation that there's some form, if there's a stream, that they get a form from conservation or from the town that tells them what to do with the state. Because it's all hearsay right now. There's no formal way of knowledge on this for the
One-
public or for the owner of the parcel.
This is something that we might want to wrap in with the drainage and filtration or
right.
infiltration aspect of
Right.
that little new subcommittee.
Mhm.
Something that we can, I think is better handled in that format, in that
Right.
forum.
And
sounds like
when this came up, we said that I would follow up and find out exactly what had happened, and B, who had recommended it, if anyone, and what might be done next. So that's where this stands.
Well, I think it's also a permitting for the bridge. So the bridge is created properly for movement of animals.
So
The one thing we do, Christy, and I don't want to, truly too much, but we, for example, I know properties that have swales. We have looked at the swales, and we have very clear in our report said the swale needs to stay. So from this perspective, we look at that, and we have looked at that.
I don't know what that is.
I think this raises a more general question, which is that if ASCC approves a project, but there are stipulations about what can and cannot be done, then if a neighbor thinks that they're violating the approval that they got and the terms that they got from ASCC, it seems that Christie or anyone can go to the town and say, I think that there's been a violation. It's not really our role to cycle back and check on projects and see whether or not, the biologist was consulted. That's something where I think anyone who thinks that it hasn't really gone according to the plan, they should question the town. And that would be my
Right.
guess.
That's the process. And the town, in fact, stops projects sometimes when things
We
aren't
know
being
what
done right.
happened at Westridge, where the neighbor complained about the view, or
Mhm.
the impact of the new house, and it was stopped for 6 or 9 months. So.
Yeah.
But it has to be a public complaint from an individual.
Right.
Right. I'm not sure that our committee would.
No, we have no,
Individuals.
we're not in that procedure.
Okay. Trails and paths.
think
Is
we
there-
already covered trails and paths.
Huh? Was there anything else besides the spring
Not,
down
specific-
piece?
the majority in the meeting was talking about the new trail maps and the safe routes to school, which are still in
Excellent.
process.
I'm sorry. I
It's
didn't mean to
okay.
jump
It's
into your
okay.
territory.
Doesn't matter.
Mary called me and asked me to do that.
He did not discuss it at the meeting,
Oh,
and I
okay.
was not
Okay.
involved, even though I was there.
Okay.
Okay. So we already did talk about the potential of pursuing, looking at Ford Field as open spaces, but I think it is still a secondary priority as far as locations for dog parks, because I think that what people really want is something at town center where we can get people's dogs off of the public fields and have them have a place to go at town center. And so because a number of the other places have been the proposal was made several years ago is still off the table for a variety of reasons, not least of which is that it's in the scenic corridor. But we discussed whether or not it made sense to look at whether or not there were some options in that border behind where the El Mirador farm and or the Christ Church, the back of those properties, if there wasn't some space that we might be able to negotiate, I think would be a better option. So that's kind of where the trails, where the Parks and Recs people are going right now, is looking at those spaces in the back of
Well, 5 years ago, when we were looking at all the town-owned properties, one of the things we suggested, there's a tiny little strip way up on Skyline that is adjacent to the El Mirador. And we suggested that they try to trade that strip for an equivalent amount of property right behind the town center. So that would be an easy do. They wouldn't have to buy anything. It would, I don't know whether it'd fly or not, but it's certainly something to think about. That would be just a bureaucratic switch of some, it's small. I can't remember what it is. I suppose we could look it up now, but, and if they did it, they could do it as a chunk that was a size that made sense for a dog park. Then I think that would be, I wouldn't think we would be as opposed to that as we are to ride on the scenic corridor. I mean, I can't speak for all of us, but
Right.
I think we will remain adamantly opposed to anything that's along the Portola Road frontage because of the big fence that's required. If they could come with if it didn't have to be an official dog park, so that there could be a different kind of a fence, lower, big, bigger, whatever, but
I mean, so that's a really important question is what kind of a fence do you have?
the
to
state
have?
has rules about official dog parks. So they had a very precise list of criteria for the,
Is 3 feet high.
probably not official. It's probably not.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
there's
Small
questions.
dogs, only for small dogs, maybe.
So that brings up the Pulgus Ridge, which is not fenced at all.
Right.
It's way out in the middle of nowhere.
Which is why.
Yeah, and what's really nice is that the people who have the dogs up there actually do the policing. Because they know they'll be thrown out if they have problems.
So it probably isn't really,
So if somebody brings a dog up misbehaving.
The one thing, Catherine, I would like suggest to you, because you go to all these meetings, I saw in the minute that they are sort of want to revisit why they shouldn't be having a dog park at Springdown. And I think this is an absolute no. And I think that should be said.
And
Yeah.
it has been said.
Okay, so that supersedes the minutes, the latest minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, where we have open space protection, that, it's a no-brainer. You can say, no, we can't. And Springdown is official open space,
Yeah.
whereas the town center, none of it is officially open space. And I guess the ruling when they decided that housing might go there about Dorothy Ford Park was that it never got officially made open space.
Right. In perpetuity. Okay, so there will be more discussions. About that. For sure. Okay. For routine town communications, I did the tip of the month last month. I don't know if you saw it, was a planting for native plants. I think we need to do another weed one for tip of the month because the weeds are just like nuts. So.
The little seedlings, the pictures of
Yeah,
the
I'll
little
do the
seedlings, great.
And the thistles are up.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
the thistles are way beyond these seedlings anymore. They're getting mad.
Yeah, nothing is tiny anymore.
Yeah.
So I'll do something on weeding. And for what's blooming now, I think you probably saw the righties that I just did earlier this week. And
Yeah, that was
has anybody
nice.
It looks so good when it's in the email. I'm so pleased with the way that Carrie has done it. It's really
That's-
great. I'm just absolutely thrilled with them. So I can just, I mean, I don't know what to do for this next month. Although I could just do wildflowers because I've been seeing milkmaids and the wake robins.
Hound's tongue, the
Right.
hound's
Hound's
tongue's
tongue's out.
great
The
right now.
ceanothus
I'll do
are
the
gorgeous.
spring wildflowers this time.
Yeah, Ceanothus are looking really good.
We jumped over the kudos,
That's because you're not here.
but you can talk about the kudos. I just, no. I can't talk to you.
Talk.
I
She
just
can't vote.
can't vote, okay? I am here, I just can't vote.
Okay,
Okay,
what do you have?
so what do you have for
I
us?
don't, I was gonna ask you, I can't think of anything.
Turn her off.
I insist on being heard, but I have nothing to say.
Okay.
Did you do culverts?
Any thoughts?
Did you do
Yeah, we were
culverts?
gonna do culverts. Did you do it?
Mm-mm. I never saw it.
No, I'll do the culverts, okay.
Excellent.
They're gonna need several cleanings.
That's the truth. Okay, we're almost there. Just a couple more. Wildlife quarters for the safety element. Judy, you.
I think I had brought that up once, didn't think it was something I was supposed to be doing. And just the idea was that as whoever's doing the safety element, that one of the things it might be important to ask them to include would be that wildlife quarters have a safety function in that if we all have to evacuate, it'd be nice if the animals weren't all on the roads with us, but
Judy, I put this into the safety element.
you did.
Yeah, I put it in my function on the EPC.
Lovely. Very good. Then this is done.
It's done.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is discussion of creating a working group to address updates to the general plan. And I just saw that there was the opening meetings today for input into the general plan revisions. I didn't go to.
So
any
I
of
went to
them.
that meeting. The purpose of this set of meetings is really educational. That the council, Judith Haskell and Mary Hufty have organized it, and they're sort of assigning people pieces of the general plan to read and understand and think about what changes might need to be made, and to look at especially how to bring it into compliance with, it's supposed to all be internally consistent. And if changes are made because to the housing element, then other things have to be changed. It's not the working group to make recommendations about the revision of the general plan. That group won't be formed until at the end of this year at the earliest.
Okay.
And there's still not certainty that it will be a residents working group. There's a lot of pressure on the council to make sure it includes some residents. But that part hasn't been done yet. But so people are being assigned individual parts and forming little working groups around that. So the idea here is, would this committee, the question is, would this committee like to have a small subcommittee of some kind that looks at the conservation element in some detail, so that when this all starts happening, we'll have our ducks in a row and be ready to make a meaningful contribution. And in the meantime, we could do it very informally through this the
Residents.
group thing that's happening right now. Really just as part of the educational process for everybody. Or if we would like to just wait until there's the more formal thing. So it's really,
Judy, I would very much support that we are proactive and that we have a subcommittee, because I remember the last changes in the general plan. And I remember what happened. The result was that the Neelys actually could build their vineyard. So I think we have a duty to do work there and look at it from the conservation perspective. And I'd be happy to be on the subcommittee.
Okay,
Great.
would anybody else? I'll do it too. Would anybody else like to do that, Megan? Okay, great. So that's 3 of us, so that's good. So Murphy, Plunder, Richards on that subcommittee. Thanks.
Okay.
And you can add that to your spreadsheet.
Okay. And the last item is the consolidated plants list, which I think we're in the midst of just doing the final.
Yes, we need to
QCing.
add some final detailed information about the plants, make sure we're doing the right habitats and. I haven't spelled anything.
Right, but we've now Paul's gone through it and
Yeah.
I've gone through it and we've found some inconsistencies and those are everything, it looks great. So
It is a good list.
So the next step is to finish doing all the transferring of any little detailed data to it and then to talk to town about how to get it.
Well, no, then the next step after, we have to give it final approval, right?
Yes.
So it needs to come to us
Okay.
as part of the next agenda. We're all ready to give it our stamp. We're all ready to give it our stamp of approval.
Edits in the next couple of weeks,
Cool.
one final check, bring it here.
Good, I think.
All right.
Okay, all right, and I think that's it for the stuff that's on the agenda. I do see that Christy has her hand up again, and I wanted to acknowledge her, give her some time to ask her next question.
Thank you. I just have a question going back to Dorothy Ford Park. We have a new council, we have new planning commissioners, we have some new ASCC members. How can we be assured that any letter you've written to conserve the land for its biology gets to the new members that may not have been attending your meetings or seen it in the past? So do you submit your letter again? Does Open Space submit their letter again? We need to make sure that it doesn't get lost if we truly care about conservation of land, biology, animals. And so I'm just wondering if you would consider submitting your letter again to the committees that need to know.
Which letter?
I thought you wrote a letter. Maybe it was just Open Space, but I thought you wrote one as well.
Are you talking about the letter that we wrote when they were considering putting the Ford Field on the housing element space? That letter that we wrote and is that the
Right,
letter?
but Dorothy Ford Park and Ford Field is,
We did write a letter. requesting That.
I am wondering if that letter should be submitted again with all new members and many members being new on each committee. I just don't want your words to get lost and buried.
Yeah,
And then I just think we got to stay on top of it. And then if we look at all the species that Fish and Game called out for the Sanford wedge, how do we make sure that we protect those same species that were listed in their draft EIR and what they wrote? So they listed about 6 species. So we have a lot of housing coming, and even so I'm wondering if you're have access to that document and how we follow up with protecting the species on the land that are, what do you call it?
So the letter that we wrote, was written to, I think we sent it to the Housing Element Committee and probably CC'd the council, trying to influence the decisions they made as they were creating the new housing element. And now that new housing element has been created. So the letter that we were writing was in a moment in time when it could have some impact on the process that was underway. And that process has now been finished so that the letter doesn't make as much sense unless it was a letter say, darn, you didn't do what we wish you had done. You see what I'm saying? Once they
Well, I'm
open the
wondering what the
process
Sun-
again,
Yeah.
once they open the process again, then it would make sense for us to submit another letter. But it's like we were saying, please don't vote this way. And they voted that way. So I don't see that the submission of a resubmission of a letter that says, please don't vote this way makes any sense after the vote has already been taken.
I don't think the vote has been taken by the council. It's the final vote, doesn't it go still to planning commission and
It's
then?
It's been through planning commission and it's been through the council and they approved it. And it's been, and there are some little details that have been still working out in the planning department about how to fit one number in with the other. But
Well,
I
I think
don't think there's anything still for the council to approve. The council did approve it before the year-end deadline.
I don't think it was submitted
They
to.
haven't submitted, it has not yet been submitted, or a first version was submitted, but the next version has not yet been submitted. But I could be wrong. We could look into,
The drafts are going back and forth and the final will be voted on by the end of March. So I think the sunrise is still in question.
right.
And the sunrise needs to be clarified. But the final has not been submitted, only drafts going back and forth between HCD and us.
That's right.
The final is voted on by the new council, and I just want to make sure the new council, the new planning commission and planning commission, knows previous letters from open space, conservation and recreation. These are really important
So-
letters.
We can check and see if it would have any impact.
Well, did it only go to the housing committee, then did it get to all three, ASCC, planning and town council? And then how will you be addressing the protected species that we're supposed to be protecting during building if we don't look at this, what Fish and Wildlife submitted for the Stanford Wedge, and we start talking about everything they listed there.
So you're talking about something new though, Christy. It's not currently on the agenda, correct?
Well, you were talking about animal corridors and species and for the safety element. So I guess I'm just trying to tie it all in. I mean, we're conserving animals, land, areas, green spaces. So I just want to make sure it's not forgotten.
Christy, I believe I remember this letter also went out through the PV forum. So actually everybody in town has seen this letter.
Yes.
It might not have been on the council at that time, but everybody has seen that letter because it went, I remember Catherine put it
Yeah,
out.
you're
on the
assuming
forum.
that everyone has read it, but if people are on vacation and it gets buried, they're
So
never gonna read.
I think we've heard your comments. I don't think we are supposed to get into a big discussion about every comment.
And
Yeah.
I believe that it would actually require a vote. If we would have to submit something on behalf of the committee, we can't just send out information. So,
Yeah, I think we sent the letter out. It was sent to everybody and it was, yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know what else we can do and what else would add anything helpful.
I'm just asking where it was sent.
Well, I don't remember exactly, but I definitely put it on the PV forum and I sent it to the housing element.
All the members of that committee.
Yeah,
Right.
the members and also I think they sent it to the town council.
I think so.
I think it's really important that the new town council gets it. They are the final vote.
If
before-
this is in progress, we should check
Yeah,
and
well,
see,
well-
we should check and see if there's still any influence that we might have.
Yeah.
And if there's not, it's pointless to talk about it.
So do we know
Okay.
when our council liaison will be back? I mean, that would be a normal, that
Right.
would be
That's a
the
very
route
good
to
point. Yeah.
pursuing this, right?
Yeah,
Maybe Catherine should contact.
I'll check Mary
Mary.
with Mary when she gets back.
Okay.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Catherine, I have a general comment just because I am hearing you. As this is being recorded, I just wanted to give you the feedback. Unless you are speaking directly into the microphone, you will not be heard on the recording.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, well, that's everything. And I'm ready to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Aye.
I move.
All right, thank you.
No, we need a
everybody.
second.
Oh, okay. Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor? We're done.
It's interesting. Does one really need to take a vote to adjourn? Is that a part of the Brown thing? Or the Robert's Rule of Orders? I thought the chair could just say we're now adjourned. Should look it up.
The other board I'm on votes to
Do they?
adjourn.
Yeah.
The EPC does not vote, I can tell you that. We're just adjourned.
We never used to before, but
Rails and Gas
now there are all
voted.
these
Yeah.
new rules. Let's see, I'm gonna look it up right now.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thanks. So you can disconnect this now?
Turn it off.